Monday afternoon or evening, or possibly Tuesday morning, he will travel from Florida to New York. And Tuesday, he will enter the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, essentially the police department in Manhattan, and he will be fingerprinted. He will have his photograph taken for a so-called mug shot, and then he will be criminally arraigned in New York State court. And what an arraignment will entail is that he'll have the charges that are being held against him explained to him. That is when those charges will become public in detail. And then he will have the opportunity to enter a plea. He will clearly plead not guilty to the charges. And then that's pretty much it. The judge at that juncture will have the opportunity to remind the former president that this is a serious matter and that in this matter, he is but another criminal defendant. And I imagine, it's a speculation, that the judge will remind Donald Trump not to engage in bombastic, much less threatening rhetoric aimed at either the prosecutor's office, the judge, or potentially down the road, the individual members of the jury. Over the last several days, there has been a lot of activity by the former president aimed at inciting his supporters towards violence, even using words like destruction, and then himself posting a social media image of himself carrying a baseball bat next to an image of the district attorney. That's not the kind of behavior that criminal defendants get away with when they are in a courtroom and in a proceeding where they're under the jurisdiction of a judge who, at least in the confines of the particular trial, is in charge, even when you're a former president.
And we'll get to some of those comments and those actions in a moment, James, but Trump's lawyer says he will not be handcuffed in his court appearance. His lawyer said, as you say, he will plead not guilty and aggressively challenge the legal viability of the case. What do we know about the strength of the case against Donald Trump?
It's a really good question, and it's the right question, which is to say this is the way in which an adjudicative process, a fair process under a system of the rule of law should go. We're going to experience a scenario of slow, painstaking justice in which facts matter and law matters as opposed to spin and rhetoric. And I think when you analyze the merits of the case, it seems as though on the underlying predicate offense, i.e. the business fraud claim, the falsification of business records, when he allegedly claimed that $130,000 payment that he made to the former adult film star Stormy Daniels, those $130,000 in expenses were legal fees. That seems like it's rock solid. We have the testimony, or the district attorney has the testimony of at least Michael Cohen, his former lawyer, who spent a year in prison on charges related to this very same fact pattern. We have Donald Trump's signature on the checks, and we presumably have numerous other corroborating witnesses and or evidence. That part seems like it's a relative slam dunk. However, that's only a misdemeanor charge. And to elevate that charge to a felony, the more severe criminal consequences, the district attorney has to be able to show that Donald Trump engaged in that fraudulent business record keeping in order to conceal another crime.
Just finally, James, what does this mean for Donald Trump's bid for the presidency? And could it actually help to rally support for that bid?
A very good question, Joe. And I think the truth is we don't know. There is a school of thought that says that in the near term, this may actually produce a bit of a bump in his support, rallying the base, energizing the base, if you will. And that may prove to be the case. And with Donald Trump, you can never really rule anything out because he's proven many predictions false, including predictions that I made a couple of years ago when I thought his political career was dead in the aftermath of January 6th of 2021. But I think that long term, we go back to first principles. In the short run, this may give him a bit of popularity or a bit of a coalescing of his base of support. But in the long run, it's very, very rare that it's a good thing to be facing at least these criminal charges and potentially other criminal charges in the Federal Department of Justice investigations and the Georgia state election interference investigations. Being charged with criminal conduct rarely ends well for the individual who is so charged.